Welcome back to my channel. We're live at Kingston Seawall, Kingston here in Georgetown. This is what Seawall looks like on Sunday morning. That's the promenade, Seawall. That's looking east. And here we are seated under the concession area. This is the concession area here at Kingston. So yeah, I promised to go live at 7 a.m. just to give you guys an update on some of the videos I've been posting over the last, month or so. I want to go live every Sunday maybe, or every Saturday morning, just so that I can recap what's happening in Guyana during the week, during the preceding period of videos, posting videos. So one of the topics I've been concentrating on recently is the financial aspect of running the economy. In other words, the economic situation in Guyana. And I know I've made several videos in the past about the value of the Guyana dollar, how the value of the Guyana dollar should be allowed to increase, and how in fact it can increase, and how the value of the Guyana dollar rising could counteract the inflation rate in Guyana. And so part of the topic for the last week or so was talking about how money works. And the reason why I'm talking about how money works is a lot of people still don't understand the basic concept of money. Money is not real, right? Money is not, it's not the paper that you exchange at the grocery store or at the supermarket or at the market. Money is not real. It's a concept that we have in our head. So for example, if I give you a box of cash, right? Let's say I had one of those cartoons, you know, those moving boxes that you buy when you want to move, and I give you a box of cash, but I didn't tell you which currency it is. You wouldn't know what the value of that money is, right? So a box of cash, the value of a box of cash depends on which currency is in the box. So let's say you got $1 million in the box, but it's 1,000,000 Mexican pesos. It will be different from 1,000,000 Venezuelan bolivars, or 1,000,000 US dollars, or 1,000,000 euros, or 1,000,000 pounds sterling, and so on, right? So money is not real in the sense that the paper only has meaning if it can be tied to some value, some commodity. So that's the concept that I'm trying to convey in the videos on how money works, because if you have $1,000,000 Guyana dollars, it does not mean you can buy 1,000,000 US dollars worth of stuff, right? 1,000,000 Guyana dollars is just worth about 5,000 US dollars. So in that sense, it doesn't really matter what your currency is. What matters is the value of the currency. And so the idea behind the set of videos I've posted recently on how money works is to say that you can actually change the value of your currency, because there's nothing that says that one Guyana dollar must be worth 212 US dollars, right? What determines the exchange rate is the demand for the currency. That's what I'm trying to convey in those videos. That, for example, if you can find a way to increase the demand for Guyana dollars, then the value of the Guyana dollar will go up. And people are arguing, well, it's not that simple. The value of the currency depends on how the government manages the economy and politics and all this stuff. Not really. If you look at Bitcoin, right? The reason why Bitcoin is worth 50,000 US dollars is for two reasons. It's very simple. One, because there is a very limited supply of Bitcoin, and two, because there is a high demand for Bitcoin, right? So if there is a limited supply and a high demand, the value of the currency goes up. And that happens with US dollars, it happens with Guyana dollars, it happens with any currency. So that is a concept I'm trying to convey. A lot of people still don't understand that. The government of Guyana can decide to have a stronger dollar policy. In other words, if your policy is to increase the value of the Guyana dollar, then one of the first things you will do is restrict the supply of Guyana dollars, and then you will increase the demand for Guyana dollars in the ways that I described in that video. So what I was saying basically is that if the Guyana government wanted to increase the value of the Guyana dollar, it would force everybody who is investing in Guyana to convert their US dollars or their Trinidad dollars or their whatever, Jamaican dollars, wherever they're coming from, must first buy Guyana dollars before they can convert the Guyana dollars to US dollars. Right? Because our supply of US dollars comes from our sale of goods and services to the USA. And the most important way we get US dollars today is by selling oil. Oil is the petrodollar. It's the only commodity that everybody buys in US dollars right now. That might change eventually as the BRICS countries implement a new currency system. But oil allows us to basically generate US dollars right now at a rate of about 250 million US dollars per month. We actually get about 250 million US dollars per month, or about 3 billion US dollars a year from the sale of oil. Right? That is what we get as part of the profits and royalties from the contract with ExxonMobil. So what we need to do in Guyana is to simply the government of Guyana would have to do this by policy, force any investors coming to Guyana to first buy Guyana dollars and then use that Guyana dollars to buy US dollars, because that's what's happening, what was happening recently, or what is happening over the years, the last 4 or 5 years, that investors have flooded into the country, is it's just come and use up the US dollar supply that we have, bypassing the Guyana dollar. And the Guyana dollar is basically languishing. Even though the economy is growing, even though you see all these hotels being built, and bridges being built and roads being built, the dollar is languishing at very, very low value. And the reason why that is happening is because the government wants it to be that way. If the government had a strong dollar policy, then the value of the Guyana dollar would increase, because the government would find ways to increase the demand for the Guyana dollars. So that is behind this series of videos that I've been making on money recently. Now, why is that important? The reason why it's important is because if the value of the Guyana dollar increases, it affects everybody the same way, right? It's not going to only affect the people who get contracts from the government. So the way it is right now, the only people who are getting the benefit of the oil and gas industry in Guyana, the fact that Guyana is now in a growth period, the only people who are benefiting are the people who are getting these contracts from the government to procure various items and contracts to build roads and so on. Those are the people who are benefiting. The other people who are benefiting are the people who the politicians select to rain money on. So right now they're raining money down on Gaisuku, and they rain money down on the fishermen. You know, the government has been choosing who it wants to rain money on, and they benefit. So for example, fishermen got $250,000 in cash grants, you know, and Gaisuku has been getting billions of dollars invested in their sugar estates and so on. It doesn't stop people from striking. I understand there's a strike happening right now as we speak at one of the estates, was at Rose Hall Estate. So the point is that if you wanted to spread the wealth evenly, the way to do it is to raise the value of the Guyana dollar. Because if the value of the Guyana dollar goes up, then suddenly the money you have in your bank account, the money you get in your paycheck every month is worth more. It can buy more things. You can travel abroad. You can shop online. And so everybody benefits when the value of the dollar goes up. But that is not the policy. That is not the policy of politicians right now. And that's why you're getting a situation where Guyanese can't really compete at home. There's this company right now that is closing. I think it's ITEL. So ITEL is going to close its operations in Guyana in December because their business model entailed taking advantage of the low cost of labor in Guyana. But the young people who are being employed are quitting after a couple of days, after a few days, because the pay that they're getting, whether it be $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 a month, whatever it is so very, very low for the amount of work that they're being asked to do that it's not worth it. Like somebody was saying, you know, everybody in Guyana is making YouTube videos now. Everybody is posting, you're getting videos on YouTube from every part of the society. The reason is because on YouTube, people are getting paid in US dollars. Now, Google pays you in US dollars on YouTube. So in Guyana, you might as well go post videos on YouTube because you're gonna get paid in US dollars. Whereas if you go work for ITEL or some one of these telemarketing companies, they're here basically to pay you as little as possible and to force you to work as hard as possible. And that's not a good deal for people, for workers, right? So it's really not a good strategy for Guyana to keep the Guyana dollar low and to try to sell Guyana as a low-wage economy, because we cannot compete with China, we can't compete with Vietnam or Bangladesh, which has millions, you know, the population is millions and millions of people, and their labor force is willing to work for a much, much lower price than we can work. So we should not be competing with the lowest common denominator. We cannot be selling Guyana as a destination for low-wage jobs. So that is, I think, one of the mistakes that the government has been making. We should be actually pursuing a strong dollar policy, because we cannot compete with countries that have much, much larger populations. We can't compete for the low-wage market, right? It's no way we can win by attracting people, investors to Guyana, because the wages here are low. We have to find other ways. We have an English-speaking population. We have a tropical country. We have a country that has a huge growth potential. So the stuff that you build here, you're starting at the bottom, will have a great distance to rise, as opposed to, so if you try to build companies in the US, you're gonna find there's a lot of competition already, and the stuff that you can do has to be near the top of technological advancement, right? So it's very, very stiff competition. Whereas in Guyana, there's a company just now, I think Massey, just opened a air separation unit. In other words, they're going to produce, Massey is going to produce liquid nitrogen and liquid oxygen and liquid helium and so on. That is actually an important precursor. Those purified gases are a precursor for more advanced industrial development. So for example, one of my areas of specialty is MRI, medical imaging. And I've been hesitating to establish a medical imaging university, the Medical Imaging Institute, which is part of the Georgetown Biomedical University. I've hesitated to implement that part of my business strategy, because if you're going to use MRI in Guyana, right, you're going to use 3 Tesla, this is high field strength MRI, you need things like liquid helium, you need liquid nitrogen to cool the magnets. That is how you're able to produce high field. Over a period of time, you tend to lose a little bit of liquid nitrogen and liquid helium from the magnets. Let's say 3 Tesla or, you know, 7 Tesla magnet is going to need to be cooled to kept cool by liquid nitrogen, liquid helium, and that gets boiled, it boils off over time. But if you don't have a way to buy liquid helium and liquid nitrogen in Guyana, then it makes no sense. It would be very expensive to run, high field magnets for medical imaging in Guyana. So now that now Massey is producing liquid helium, liquid nitrogen in Guyana, it makes it much more feasible for me to bring in high field strength magnets so we can do high resolution and medical imaging in Guyana, right? So the point is that the potential for growth is greater because of where we have to come from, how low we have to rise from. But the problem is that we can't rise unless these precursor industries are in place. For example, one of my goals here in Guyana is to start an airline. I've already started. You can go check the website out. One of the websites I've built is the Les Air. Les Air is now a private jet, charter jet service company, but it will become a full-fledged airline. But we can't compete. Guyanese airlines will not be able to compete because we don't have a reliable source of jet fuel. If we had our own refineries, our own petroleum refineries that produces jet fuel for us, then it would make sense for us to have a international airline industry, because we will not be subjected to the fuel shocks that comes. One of the most expensive parts of running an airline is the cost of fuel. And so a lot of airlines like American Airlines and JetBlue and so on, they invest in refineries in New Jersey so that they can be guaranteed a supply of jet fuel. Trinidad has refineries, which is why Caribbean Airlines can operate out of Trinidad for the last, 30 years or so, 40 years, because they have a reliable source of jet fuel. Guyana does not have a reliable source of jet fuel. That is one of the most important reasons why Guyana must invest in refineries. Now, we don't have to build a refinery here in Guyana. We can actually go just buy a refinery that is sitting dormant somewhere in Tortola or Curacao. There are refineries in the world that are dormant because they've basically stopped doing business. So we can simply purchase or lease a refinery somewhere and do our oil refining there and ship the products back to Guyana or sell them from there. So Guyana getting into refinery business does not necessarily entail building a refinery on the ground here in Guyana. It involves getting into the business of owning and operating refineries wherever they are in the world. And that is a precursor to us having a airline industry in Guyana, right? Because then we can be guaranteed a supply of jet fuel, and we are not going to be hamstrung when there is a drop in the supply of jet fuel. We wouldn't be competing with the rest of the airlines, all the airlines in the world. So those are the ideas. You see, there's a kind of unsophisticated way in which we are pursuing development, and that is why a lot of the videos that I make come across as critical, because we're doing stuff in a very naive way. We could be doing things in a much more sophisticated and informed way. In other words, we should be pursuing a stronger Guyana dollar. We should be pursuing our own refinery, and we should be pursuing our own precursor industrial products like liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen, liquid helium, and so on. We should be pursuing our own what are called radionuclides. If you want to do PET imaging, positron emission tomography imaging, you need a source for radioactive contrast agents that are used in PET. So we can't do PET in Guyana because we don't have a source that produces radioactive agents at medical grade. So those are the things, the precursor industries that we need to be investing in Guyana. We should be investing in trains. That's one of the things that I've been harping on for the last, year or so. The reason is very simple. It does not rely on the roads. It does not rely on road conditions. It doesn't rely on the weather conditions. And it doesn't rely on the disobedience of drivers on the road, people not following the laws, causing accidents. It doesn't depend on road congestion. So the reason why you want to build trains and a light rail system, or even a freight system, or high-speed rail in Guyana, is so that you can make the economy much more efficient, because a lot of the efficiency comes from people being able to move and products and services being able to move around the country. So that's what's up, guys. That's what's behind the videos that I'm making. The most recent video I made is about the bridge, and I've explained in the bridge videos what the problem is there. It's about how to finance the bridge. I've made 2 sets of videos on the bridge. One explaining how how bridges are financed, how you actually build bridges. And more recently, I made a video explaining why making the bridge free is not necessarily the best idea. But that's what's up, guys. That's what's happening here in Georgetown. If you have questions and comments, let me know. And yeah, share them either in the comments below videos, or type them in the question section below this live. Now, what's happening in the future is I'm going to be able to, over time, expand the kinds of videos that I make. Most likely, I'm going to start making videos on the various topics that I have dedicated channels to. So I have a business channel. So a lot of the finance videos where I talk about money and finance and the economy are actually going to be moved to the channel called Raphael Nation Business. And I've always planned to make more videos on food reviews. I used to make videos on food reviews. You can go down, check the archive. You're going to find some of the videos I've made in the past about food. But those videos are being moved to a channel called Raphael Nation Food. So a lot of the videos that I make in the future on the topic of food and restaurants and fast food joints, when I review those places, I'm going to put those videos on Raphael Nation Food. I have another channel called Raphael Nation Cars. I'm actually building a car channel. I have another, I have I think 10 of these channels. I haven't been making videos for those channels, but as time goes by, you know, I'm probably going to start putting videos out on those channels. And the reason why is because of the algorithm. The way the YouTube algorithm works is that if you don't stick to one topic on a channel, then the algorithm does not share your videos. Right now, for example, I have over 1,000 videos, maybe 1,300, 1,400 videos on this channel. But most of those videos do not have more than a few thousand views, 1 or 2 or 3,000 views most of those videos have, as opposed to 10 or 100 or you know, 1 million views. I don't have any videos with 1 million views. And the reason why is because the YouTube algorithm is kind of shadow banning, keeps hiding, does not distribute the videos that I make to the people who want to watch them. So a big part of making these videos on YouTube is constantly playing Mickey Mouse with the algorithm. You kind of have to outsmart the algorithm. So every time you break through, the algorithm finds a way to shut you down. For example, earlier when I used to make videos on Mashramani, right? I used to make Mashramani videos. Those videos would go viral. Within 24 hours, I'd get 40, 50,000 views. And then YouTube, year after year, starts suppressing those videos. So even if I post a video on YouTube now from Mashramani, it doesn't get 10,000 views, it gets maybe 3,000, 4,000 views. Now to combat that, I started making multiple videos. Instead of like the first year Mashramani videos, I posted maybe 2 videos, just 2 very long videos. And because YouTube was not, the algorithm was not restricting videos at that time, those videos probably got 100,000 views together combined. The next year I made 2 videos and they barely got 10,000 views. So I decided to make 10 videos. And so the combined 10 videos last year, I think, got 45,000 views. So the problem is that the algorithm, as fast as you find a way around it, keeps putting up more blockades. So part of the problem with posting on YouTube and remaining, a channel with high integrity is trying to outsmart the YouTube algorithm, but at the same time not trying to violate some integrity guidelines. So that's the issue with posting videos on YouTube, and the reason why I'm actually making separate channels for the various topics. A separate channel for food, separate channel for business, separate channel for cars, separate channel for travel, and so on. So one of the things that I want to do in the near future, let's say in the next few months, is to spend a little more time explaining the concept of mass transportation. Because every time I post a video on YouTube here talking about why we need trains in Georgetown or in Guyana, people are telling me, oh, no, you can't do that first, you have to get buses. And I explained that the reason why you don't have to get buses first is because anybody can set up a bus company, right? It could be a private company. Any private businessman could bring in a couple of coach buses and start running them between Georgetown and Rossignol, or Georgetown and Linden, or Georgetown and Crabwood Creek. Any private person can do that. You don't need to build new roads to do that. But to get to train, you actually need to build new railway lines. You need to build new stations, places where the train can stop. So you need to build train stations. You need to build, you need to import these trains. You need to build electricity system, because these are now electric trains that are being used. So it requires the scale of infrastructure required. Only the government has the money to build that infrastructure. Only the government has the authority to seize land for the right of way. So for example, if you are building a railway, right, and one of the lines has to pass through somebody's backyard, it's only the government that has the right of eminent domain to simply buy that person's land and allow the train to pass through their backyard. So that is why it's not something that a private person can do, right? So to get the right of way to build train lines, you actually need the government's authority to purchase the right of way, which is why I'm so upset when I go around the city and I show you, for example, Merriman's Mall or the Reserve in South Rheinveld, where they now build that new bank, right? They built 2 new structures there. One of them is the Citizens Bank. That whole right of way from the river all the way through South Rheinveld was left vacant so that you could put in like a light rail system there that would allow people to commute from downtown Georgetown into South Rheinveld if you built a train line on the reserves. And there are all these reserves around the country, at least around Georgetown, that exist, they're not being preserved. So that is what is behind a lot of my critical comments about the lack of train, the fact that the train line, where the train used to run in Guyana, is being converted into parks and roads instead of rebuilding the train line. Because if you have to now build trains into Guyana, you're going to have to use eminent domain to get land from people so that you could put down the train lines. And the government has to do that, right? But I keep saying, if this government doesn't do it, then the next government will do it, because that is the future development. Why I veered off to explain that is that in the future, let's say in the next few months, I'm going to make some international trips to point out this, the logic of this statement I'm making. Now, if you go to Colombia, right, you go to Medellin in Colombia, they have built a light rail. I think in 1995, they built a light rail system in the city of Medellin. That is now a tourist attraction, right? So I will go to Colombia specifically to ride that train in Medellin to show you that in 1995, Medellin, which used to be a city that nobody wanted to visit because it was, the headquarters of Pablo Escobar. They had, gunfights in the street on a daily basis. They had bombs going off in the city on a daily basis because of all these riots between, these competing drug lords. Today, Medellin, Colombia, the city of Medellin, is one of the most important tourist attractions because they built a railway line, right? It's now one of the first-class cities in South America, right? And Cali in Colombia is also one of the, tourist attractions. So Medellin and Cali in Colombia are examples, and they're places I will visit just to show you the importance of building a light rail system, and they're doing it right here in South America, and we should be doing it too. I don't even have to go to New York or Toronto to show you trains. They're right here in South America, and we should be playing catch up. We should be building light rail, right? I've actually, some of the best and most efficient trains I actually traveled on were in Asia, in Singapore and in Malaysia. I mean, Malaysia has a monorail system. You have to go to, I think Disney World has something similar to Malaysia. And Malaysia has been using monorail since the 1990s. They built a monorail in the city of Kuala Lumpur. So the last time I was in Kuala Lumpur, I was able to ride a monorail. You don't have monorail all over the US. The only place that's using monorail is Disney World in Orlando, right? In Orlando, Florida. So there are people who are doing things with trains, and they're not necessarily the major players like the US and UK and Canada and Australia. They are countries that are used to be called third world countries, but are way ahead as far as mass transportation, way ahead of the US and Canada. In fact, when I arrived in Singapore, I was shocked that there was no way for you to fall on the tracks in Manhattan, right? If you were visiting Manhattan, you got to be careful that you don't get pushed onto the tracks, onto the railway tracks, and you don't get injured by a train. That can't happen in Singapore. Yeah, man. So these guys are here to pick up the garbage. So these guys are, somebody was saying that they should keep this area clean. Well, in fact, they are cleaning the area. They are keeping the area clean because now there is a cleanup crew that comes in here every day and picks up the garbage. So if you look around now, there's hardly any garbage on the ground. All right, so there are people out here. There are people out here who are cleaning up the seawall on a regular basis. But like I said, what I will be doing is going live on a regular basis, probably every Sunday morning or every Saturday morning, so that I can recap what I've covered during the week. In other words, the videos I've posted, I can let you ask questions, and I can clarify some of the details and give you like a reason for why I am presenting the kind of videos that I'm presenting. In other words, there is some method to my madness. It's not a random thing that I'm doing. So yeah, I will eventually go off and make some videos in the rest of South America and in Asia to stress the point that mass transit, specifically in the form of trains, is necessary for economic growth. What it does is it boosts the economy. The GDP can be boosted by several percentage points, 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 percentage points, just by introducing trains or mass transit, which is the reason why I talk about it so often. Also, the other reason why I talk about it is that most people don't really understand why things are the way they are. You know, you might visit New York or Chicago or LA, and you might take for granted, you might think that the reason why these countries are so developed is because white people built it. But it's not about the color of the people. It's about the economic model that they've been implementing, right? And mass transit, building trains is part of the economic model that makes makes population density work for you. Basically allows people to live together closely and to build industries based on the availability of talent that is clustered together, right? That is why you need trains, so that people can get into the city and work together. Right now, this might be an old model. You might think, well, that's going out because most people are working from home. I don't think that that's going to last. I think there's some industries in which the density of the population plays an important role in the growth of the economy, and that is why I think trains and train transportation is absolutely important for Guyana, and why I keep making videos about it again and again. All right, so finally, I'm actually going to take the next steps to highlight the companies that I'm building in Guyana. Like I said, there are about 20 companies that I'm working on, and one of them right now is trying to get Guyanese products into the hands of Guyanese shoppers worldwide. That is what I call Raphael Nation brands, or RN brands, rnbrand.online. Sorry, rnbrand.uk. The website is up and running. I have had people, Guyanese that is, manufacturers, a lady who sews dresses, a lady who makes necklaces, and various people who make leather goods, slippers and belts and so on, contacted me and said, look, we want to be able to sell our items in North America or in Europe, Asia. And I actually set up a company to do that, right? It's basically about logistics. But like I said, the reason why things take longer in Guyana is because I can't go to a venture capitalist and say, you know, put $1 million or put $2 or $3 million into this company so that we can build it out. I actually have to build it myself. I have to bootstrap it, and that's why it's taking longer. The good thing about doing it by bootstrap method, though, is that it is less likely to fail. I'm not going to over leverage. I'm not putting myself under the thumb, under the pressure of investors, and therefore I could be more relaxed, and I could produce a product that, you know, gets incrementally better. So we're doing that right now with RN brands. That's the one I'm going to be emphasizing and pushing. Like I said, we reached 10,000 followers on YouTube, and I have giveaways. Those are actually going to come from the RN brand website. So if you go to rnbrand.uk, you're going to see some of the t-shirts and so on that I have created for merchandise, and I'm going to be giving away some of these t-shirts as part of the celebration of 10K followers. So that's what's happening, guys. Keep subscribing and supporting and sharing the videos on this channel, and over time we will build a community that benefits everybody. Not only the people who live here in Guyana, but people abroad are going to benefit from being a member of this channel, because like I said, I have a number of other companies in the works. And so, for example, you'll be able to have a place to stay in Guyana once I build the condominiums, right? I have a condominium, a company that builds condominiums, high-rise condominiums. We want to build 20-story, 30-story, 40-story buildings, 50-story residences. And basically, you'll be able to Airbnb some of these units if you come to Guyana with the quality and amenities of a hotel, but in a residential building. Right, so that's the idea behind EcoSmart Homes, which is another company I'm working on. So there are benefits for people who are subscribers to this channel in the future, whether you're living in Guyana or you're living abroad, right? Because what we're building is global companies. We're not necessarily looking just to cater to people here in Guyana, but to build companies that are global in reach. Right, so that's what's up, guys. That's what's happening. If you have any questions, share them in the comments or ask them right now, because in the next 10 minutes I will be getting off. So let me know if you want to have any of your questions answered. Been having some trouble with the internet connection here at the Kingston seawall this morning. One of the reasons why I come to Kingston seawall is because the internet connection tends to be reliable. But for some reason this morning it hasn't been reliable. But here the floor is open. If you have questions, let me know. All right, so if you don't have questions, I'll just give you one last look at the beautiful surroundings here at Kingston and sign off for this live. So this is what's happening here at 7:45, almost 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning at Kingston. It's quiet. There are people out here now. People have come out to walk on the seawall, to walk their dog, or to just relax on a Sunday morning. Not a whole lot of people. Not as busy as it will be in the evening when the sun goes down. And certainly not as busy as it usually is on a Sunday morning or Sunday night. This is Sunday morning in Georgetown at Kingston Seawall. So that's it, guys. Share the live. Share this video with friends and family around the world. It's going to be on YouTube, listed on YouTube videos in future. And in future, I think I'm going to make a regular live commitment to do lives on Sunday mornings from Georgetown, Guyana, or from wherever I am in the world. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I'm also able to go live on TikTok now, so I'll be doing lives over there sometimes, and so you can catch me whenever I'm on live on the weekends for now. No questions? And that's it, folks. We've been on for what, 44 minutes and 23 seconds? We're getting off at 45 minutes. So you have 10 seconds to ask, or 30 seconds to ask any questions. $20 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, since there are no questions, we're gonna say ayo. See you later.